Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good
Hi.
afternoon.
Hi, Annabelle.
Hi.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Hey,
Hello.
Astrid. Nice to see you.
Hi.
So we're just waiting for a minute or so to
Yeah,
let's
let's give it a minute or so before we start. Yeah, people are just coming in.
Dropping in. Yeah.
Yeah, there's still people walking in, but I think you can
We
start,
can start,
Kamakshi. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kamakshi Rajagopal, and welcome to our opening session of our webinar series, Personalization of Education, Empowering Learners Through Personalized Content and Flexible Delivery. So I will be the moderator today, and I will be guiding today's session which is organized by the European Association of Distance Teaching Universities, EADTU, as you would know. So before we start, there are just a few house rules. Please mute your microphones, but keep your cameras on if that's possible. We are recording this session, as I mentioned, as you might have seen. And throughout the session, so we will have two speakers today. Please, any questions you may have, please put them in the chat. And we will have time after each presentation to have for some questions. And as much as possible, I will let some of you take the mic as well, if that's if time allows us. So with that, this is the agenda for this week. So as you see today, we have a session with two speakers, George Ubachs from EADTU and Annabell Bils from FernUniversität in Hagen. And we will focus on foundations and infrastructures. We have a second part to our webinar series tomorrow, where we will focus on learner pathways, engagement, and ethics, and with some very interesting speakers there as well. So I hope you can join us for the whole series, and we are ready for today, I think. And with that, I think I can introduce George Ubachs. He's a managing director of EADTU. He's responsible for the development and support of the EADTU network, policies, and execution of its goals in online, open, flexible higher education. He's coordinator of the international academic cooperation networks on networked curricula, virtual mobility, and on business models for lifelong learning. George is also the ICDE focal point on Quality for Europe coordinator, and he's coordinator of the European MOOC Consortium, which has developed a standard for micro-credentials through the Common Micro-Credential Framework. So with that, George, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Kamakshi, also for the extensive introduction there. And just let me pick up here. I hope you can see my slides now. I'm just trying to get this on presenter mode. Yeah, you can see it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we can see
Yes,
it.
we can see it.
Yeah, so it's good that to have you all here, and I presume not everybody knows EADTU well, so I use a few slides on explaining what EADTU is before I go into the topic of personalization. And I'm taking over there from Maartje Hendricks, who was one of the lead authors of one of the chapters in the report on personalization. But I will come to that in a few minutes. So EADTU is the European Association of Distance Teaching Universities. We have a network of leading institutional members all over Europe. And here you have an overview. So these are mostly the 10, 11 open universities in Europe. And for the rest, we have members which are associations or universities that are offering online flexible distance education in their country. And we have a one member per country policy, so we only work with the lead institutions in online and distance education in these countries. So we cover the whole of Europe almost. And what we do as an association is that we support policy cooperation and policy making. So we have meetings at rectors level with all these member universities. And also we collaborate and work in consultation groups with the European Commission to be in line with the policies of the European Commission, and also stimulate the European Commission to take up some of the agendas of innovating higher education that we represent. We share expertise within EADTU. We organize events, staff-students exchanges, expertise exchange and projects and task forces. And further, we promote the sector of online, open and flexible education for Europe. Just to indicate some of the topics that we address in our projects and task forces, that has been, of course, generative AI, the Green Campus, widening participation, student retention, student report, micro-credentials, all these topics that are most likely also on the agenda of your universities. When you look at the website of EADTU, you can clearly see the distinguishing the three main pillars. We share expertise, we develop policy and feed into policies, and we have several services. One of them is Empower, which is a club of 100 experts in online and flexible and distance education. We have Open Bet on MOOCs. We have the Excellence of Quality in online and blended education. And we also represent the European MOOC Consortium with FutureLearn, AI Campus, now in Portugal. So there are many national MOOC platforms that we represent in the Association of European MOOC Consortium. Projects that we also do, different projects on diversity and inclusion, on generative AI, on ethics of generative AI. That's a new project, Ethikai, but also on micro-credentials, MCE, and so on. So we're quite active and dynamic network. And if you are able to attend our events, interesting is always our summit. This was the one from this year. It was completely focused on interoperability. And next year it will also be in May in Brussels. And then we also have our annual conference. Last year it was in Hagen. This is the banner of that event. And next year it will be in The Hague, in the Netherlands, on the 28th until the 30th of October. So you can expect all the topics that I just mentioned to be covered also in that conference, in which we have a group of about 300 people from 30 different countries sharing their expertise and experiences in these fields. Now talking about task forces, because personalization, the topic of this week, is coming also from a task force focus that we had in the past year. We had task forces before on online e-assessment. We had one on diversity and inclusion, Green Campus, retention, generative AI. All these reports you can find on our website of EADTU, and the latest publication is the one on personalization of education. And I just want to give an introduction on that report today. So the task force personalization of education we launched in 2024. It was established by EADTU to explore strategies and practices of personalizing education by collecting approaches, policy strategies, but also challenges from 13 of our members, and make a kind of a report out of that on good practices, but also addressing several underlying topics. So here is I will give you the QR code of the full report at the end, but here you see already the chapters that we covered. And first of all, we needed indeed to come with a conceptualization of what we mean by personalization of education. So that's captured in chapter 1. And then we go into the institutional strategies represented by the 13 task force members, a bit on the technology behind the system, the effects on curriculum design, ethics, and then important, really practical guidelines and recommendations. So all our task forces are focused on coming really with practical guidelines that we want to further mainstream European-wide. We hope that universities adopt these guidelines based on our efforts in these task forces. Well, first of all, why personalization and why now? So first of all, diversity and inclusion is a priority topic for most universities in Europe, and personalization contributes to that. Next, the AI boost and the learning analytics offer the means to technically support the personalization of education. The feedback out of these systems based on the data on the students helps to come to a more personalized educational program for the students. And for the learners, then this feedback helps them to personalize the pace, the pathways, the content, but also include their prior knowledge into that. And in all, it is about enhancing the education, not necessarily to enhance the, let's say, the grades. It's more about enhancing the educational experience, and by more engagement and also considering the importance of equity and learner success in this. To position now personalization to other concepts that are very much related, like differentiation, individualization, and adaptive learning, is that personalization is student-driven. It is about choices and ownership of a student based on the feedback from the systems, supplemented with the feedback of the educator, of course, making personalized choices. When you look at differentiation and individualization, these are teacher-driven, especially to group sessions or individualized sessions. And then you have adaptive learning, which is more tech-driven. The system assesses the level of the student and adjusts the content or pace or all these elements based on what the technology identifies as the need for the student. So there, I think this is a very clear overview on how we position personalization there. Key insight is that personalization is, most of all, a multidimensional concept. It is about pedagogy, strategy, tech, as well as ethics. It is therefore an institution-wide responsibility. It has to be an institutional level facilitated. It cannot be done just in one course or program. We need to educate educators in personalization of education, get the tech as a backing system ready by tech teams. Leadership must support it. And then important also is that we are talking about innovation with very much of an ethical impact and ethical responsibility there, because you're really working with data per student. So we have to keep that, have to have policies in that direction as well. And further, we need to promote inclusion and lifelong learning responsibly, meaning also that that the system does not counteract and being more excluding by asking too much of digital literacy from potential students. So indeed, challenges and risks come with personalization. On the one hand, if you over-personalize, that means that you are really directing students in a certain pathway and not giving too many flexible options outside of that. So that is about over-personalization. You have to be clear about the potential bias within the surveillance and AI-driven systems. So they must really fit for purpose the backing systems of AI and the learning analytics. The governance required for keeping in mind that the GDPR is well addressed, as well as developing programs and offerings considering the AI and ethics by design. And fourthly, we need to ensure digital inclusion. And by personalization, you can make it so complex that you are more excluding students rather than including them. So that is a fourth risk. Next slide. So, one moment, I always have something in my screen here. Yeah. So we have several recommendations at several levels. So at institutional, educator, policymaker level. First, at institutional level, institutions need to adopt personalization as a holistic vision. It needs to be supported throughout the institution by also providing the facilities, the backing, but also educate the educators in the use of personalization. Further, we need to encourage collaboration within the institution, but also with other institutions that are very experienced in personalization of education. And then, as we're talking about an innovation initiative, we need to monitor and evaluate constantly to learn from it what works, what doesn't work, and enhance the systems. For educators, it is important to balance the human and technological mediation, as the human factor is always important to make the interpretation on the feedback to the students. It cannot be that the system produces feedback that is taken without further interpretation by the student. Or the human interface is really important. At some points, you can also think about learner inclusion in the co-creation, meaning a dialogue between the tutor based on the feedback with the tutor and the student are thinking about co-creation of their learning pathways and the learning and the personalized education. And like I said before, ensure inclusivity and equity in practice. For that purpose, also policymakers need to ensure that the systems are in place, that the frameworks and regulations are in place. We need to strengthen data governance and ethics and support institutional capacity building. That makes, I think, there's quite an overlap there at institutional level. Now a bit about the technology behind it. I just need to. Yeah, so chapter 3 is about the technology behind it. This was actually the part from Maartje. There we have a focus there on how can AI and learning analytics contribute to personalized education. The learning analytics uses the data to measure, collect, and analyze learner performances. And this can lead to two ways of supporting the student. On the one hand, it can give feedback to adaptive pathways, real-time adaptation of content-based teaching methods to improve the individual performance. And on the other hand, it can also feed into predictive systems, like early warnings for students who are at danger of dropping out or getting less engaged. So these are kind of two ways in that how it can work. In these platforms, also these LMS systems and adaptive learning platforms, you see that the responses that can be identified are on the one hand on content, on the other hand on level of performance that the student is maybe at already at a too high of a level, needs to go back a step back, but also intelligent feedback on students. The system informs the student that he or she is missing certain background and indicates other content for the student to be consulted before going further in their learning pathway. And then for the educators, data-driven insights, the analytical dashboards on what is actually happening with the learner progress, feeding into that. What is distinguished in the report is there that we have an intelligent tutoring system actually capturing the four components which is supporting the educator. One at subject level, learning level, pedagogical level, and system interaction. And the other is a more advanced system, is the next generation digital learning environment, but this is a combination of different platforms and then interconnecting with each other, helping the educator to give more information and more flexible ways of finding guidance for the student. But also, like for collaborative learning, it is possible that you identify students, for example, that are very much theoretical based and other students that are more practice based, and that you make in a collaborative setting, combine them, for example, to get most out of the educational setting in this collaborative learning, so that you can also combine profiles of different students from what you learn from different platforms to make a collaborative learning setting. A less advanced and already mainstream system that can already be used by universities is the conversational agents, and one on the content generation. The conversational agent by generative AI can help a student finding his or her own personalized education or pathways by being in dialogue with an AI system. Finding ways or information by doing so. As the content generation, it can help the educator to formalize quizzes, assignments, specifically for a certain profile of student. So these are already existing methods to be used. One example that is offered in the report is the one of the Open University of Cyprus, where rather than giving the students on cybersecurity a fixed program, they asked the student to interact with the generative AI and ask themselves, like, what would I need to know about cybersecurity? And what would be the learning pathway? What should I do first and secondly? Of course, the university can provide already the fixed program, but by doing this, the student gets more ownership and more understanding on why certain pathways of courses are followed. And it's important to get them engaged. And of course, it's not only the student with the technology. The tutor is also involved in this and discusses with the student the outcomes, the feedback from the system on how to build their learning path. In the curriculum design is chapter 4 in the report. Only shortly want to address this. Is that there is distinguished the macro level personalization, micro level, and student agency and personalization and assessment. Where at macro level, the institution must be aware and provide modularization or stackable credentials, flexible pathways. So you cannot promote personalization if you don't have alternative pathways. So you need to have more offerings, more choices, flexible choices for students to back up your personalization goals. That could also mean that you offer micro-credentials or MOOCs in your program from other universities, from other providers, as a pathway. Having let's say architecture, and your student is more interested in or wants to deepen into Southern Spanish architecture, I don't know, then you can of course take courses from other universities and feed them into your system to extend the options for students. So to modularize and make them also stackable. At micro level, it is promoted to have the dialogue with the student and co-creating learning activities, make them part of the process. Also engaging students as active participants in curriculum development process, as well as the assessment. And it's promoted in the report also to think of other ways of assessment than just standard, because can you keep the standard when you are personalizing? It's all addressed in this chapter. There are some questions, I wouldn't say concerns, but about questions about quality. First of all, there must be a robust institutional strategy behind personalization that supports throughout the full institution the educators and the technology. So educator capacity needs to be uplifted. part of the supporting of personalized education. Ethical data governance becoming even more important when you are working with personalized education, and you need to have the technical infrastructure behind the system. Risk and challenges otherwise is that personalization can become superficial, that you just say we have a lot of choices that you can take. You can take many courses, just take one, but not going deeper into pedagogical redesign. We're also talking about students that are in a flexible online system. So you can't just take any course or program to be added. It must be part of the pedagogical design of your university. So according to the quality standards of the university. A risk of reduced human interaction means that the system and learning analytics only provides the feedback to the student without the right or the correct interpretation. So the interpretation also always has to do with the human interaction, the human interface with the student and the educator. We must prevent that personalization privileges learners with greater digital literacy. And let's see, the other one. Yeah, transparency is important with AI decisions, of course. So these are elements that need to be addressed when you are at institutional level considering personalization of education. And here are some elements that you need to address then when you are the quality responsible of your institution. There are some new elements that you need to consider in your quality assessment, in your internal quality assessment, asking you several questions about does personalization systems close or widen equity gaps? How is learner data used? But also combine analytics with learner narratives to see if not only if there are more students or the same number of students are successful, but also the experience. What was the educational experience of the student? Now we are using more personalized methods. In all, just for your information, there is a manual by EADTU on quality assurance for online blended education. It's called e-Excellence, and we are working on the fourth edition. And in this fourth edition, it's not online yet. It's still the third edition, but we hope to have in a few months a fourth edition, where we have also personalization of education included in it, but also from the other task forces, the online assessment and the other topics, retention, student support, and so updated in that one. And if you're looking for good practices on personalization of education, there are several good practices reported on in the task force report. There are some examples from the Open University UK or KU Leuven or the WOC in Catalonia. And so these could be quite inspirational when you check these out. And here, that is what I promised you. I give you the QR code of the report, which was only launched two months ago. It's really only recently launched, and I hope it really lives up to your expectations and gives you a lot of inspiration. Thank you so much.
Thank you, George. I think looking at time, yeah, we will move on to our second speaker, and we will dive into the case here in the University of FernUniversität in Hagen. So Annabell, Bils, please, if you can start your presentation. So Dr. Annabell Bils is an educational scientist and managing director at the Center for Learning and Innovation. At the FernUniversität, she has worked as a consultant for higher education strategy and digitalization in the rector's office and as a program coordinator. She was a postdoctoral researcher at the chair of media didactics and knowledge management at the University of Duisburg-Essen in Germany and deputy chair for educational technology at FernUniversität Hagen as well. So please, Annabell, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. First question, as always, can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. What I'm going to tell you about today is very much linked to what George has already told you today. This is more a bit of a practical example of what we are doing at FernUniversität. And I'll give you a quick overview about personalization, but also some parts are more individualization and some are even technology driven, but it fits very well to the speech before. So we will dive into a few examples at FernUniversität here. So about FernUniversität, we are Germany's only state distance teaching university. We have a few more that are private, but this is the only state distance teaching university. And it's, by the way, the largest university in Germany by student numbers. We have about 80,000 students enrolled. Our student body is highly diverse and it's predominantly part-time studying. So we have a strong emphasis on lifelong learning. And so there are a lot of quality strategies at FernUniversität which explicitly link this flexibility, links to learner orientation, competency-based education, and to personalization. The FernUniversität has developed some strategies to promote flexible, inclusive, and learner-oriented environments. I will talk about that later on. And we have a strong research and development focus because we have a very big research cluster called Catalpa, which is the Center of Advanced Technology for Assisted Learning and Predictive Analysis. So they are more on the technical side to do research about learning analytics, to do research about individual pathways and groups in learning environments. We have a link to the Center for Learning and Innovation. That's where I'm coming from. We are a service unit for teaching staff. And we have a link to the Center for Digitalization and IT, which is the technical administration part. A few words about us. I just told you, we have about 80,000 students. The picture says it's summer semester 2020, but even in that year, we have 80,000 again. We are the only university, at least in Western Germany, that has rising numbers of students at the moment. And we are the largest university in Germany. 80% of our students study via distance learning in addition to their individual careers or family matters or whatever. So they are here in part-time. And about 7,000 people study without a formal university entrance qualification. For example, because they have done vocational training or are responsible for the vocational training of others. So this is a qualification that allows them to enter FernUniversität without a so-called Abitur, which is in Germany the normal entrance qualification. One thing that we have in order to focus on individual needs are the flexible study rhythms and individual workload models, because many students juggle study with a job, with family, with other commitments. So a rigid pace or format would exclude them or maybe overwhelm them. So we are offering flexible study rhythms and modular curricula. That means full-time, part-time, or part-time with other commitments are possible. It's also possible to switch between the study rhythms. Can be you study in full-time for, well, I don't know, 2 semesters and then raise a family and want to slow down a bit, to go over to part-time and then go back to full-time. It's always possible. And we are offering modular programs with flexible course enrollment and scheduling, and distance learning formats that enable adjustment to personal life circumstances. And this flexibility is part of FernUni's DNA, as our rector always says. Our blended learning types do not any longer distinguish only between on-campus or online formats, because we a bit think that it is outdated, because even if you are in a webinar and you're not on campus, it's still offers a lot of possibility and flexibility and other ways of communicating with students. So we have a table in which we identify 4 types of blended learning that we offer in every study program. We distinguish between predominantly asynchronous and predominantly synchronous on the one hand, and predominantly low teacher-student interaction and high teacher-student interaction on the other hand. So type 1 is everything that is written courses, ebooks, Moodle books, other texts, or recorded lectures where there is no interaction, but it doesn't matter if you are there at Monday at 6 o'clock, for example. Then the type 2 is face-to-face or online lectures via a live stream, which is synchronous, but there is not big interaction. Then type 3 is asynchronous, like asynchronous seminars, exercises on whatever you can do in a learning management system, where you, for example, watch a video whenever you want, but go into a discussion with your teammates in an online forum, for example. This is a very normal course at FernUniversität. This is the basis of what we are doing. And then type 4 is everything synchronous with a high interaction, which is a really face-to-face on-campus seminar, for example. But it can also be an online seminar where you have interaction between students, interaction between learners. What we are doing to support structures is personalized academic counseling, which is really the basis of everything, starting with studies at FernUniversität. Because our student body ranges from school leavers to working professionals in mid-career. Our average age is 38, so we don't have the 18, 19-year-old people coming directly from high school, but we have a lot of students that have already been working or have a family or have just want to learn new things. So we focus on lifelong learning. We have quite a high number of, for example, retired teachers that want to study history or psychology after they have no duties at school any longer. So there's a lot of of heterogeneity in the student body, and so the counseling really does tailored recommendations for part-time, full-time study rhythms or modular sequencing. And it's a targeted guidance based on the individual goals, the priority of learning, the life situation, study pace, etc. This is a screenshot from our website where there is a list of frequently asked questions. And for example, these are questions that students raise. For example, I'm working and the only time when I can study is after work and at the weekend, so no problem. Or I don't have a German higher education entrance qualification. Okay, that's fine. Or I have obtained my university entrance qualification abroad. It's totally okay as well. Or even I have a disability or chronic illness, but I still want to study. Yes, you can do that at FernUniversität. I'm not quite sure about the number, but I think we have 8% of people with disabilities, which is the highest rate of disabilities, student with disabilities in Germany. Because for obvious reasons, they mostly cannot go to a campus university and study online. And there is some personalized onboarding and preparation, because we have seen that the pre-study and early phases often determine the success that they have later. And students enter with wildly varying prior knowledge. They have different languages or digital competencies. And so we provide tailored preparation and onboarding modules that are aiming at bridging entry gaps, for example, diagnostical task, orientation, scaffolding. For example, as you can see, there is a course on statistic mathematics, because most people do know a lot of mathematics and statistics, but maybe school has been a long time ago, or scientific writing. People used to write in their jobs, but not on an academic level. So there is a scientific writing center which helps them to bridge those competencies. And this logic is implied in the general stance of modular flexible distance education and the use of adaptive learning measures. I will show you some projects later on. And there is a strong emphasis on supporting self-regulation and domain competencies from the starts that suggests preparatory personalization. I just said we have inclusive support for special target groups. Our goal is to maintain accessibility and equal participation in a fully flexible learning model. And therefore, we have personalized pathways for students with disabilities or chronic illnesses or complex life circumstances. For example, we have even some people in prison that can't go to a on-campus university, or we have elite athletes who are somewhere in the world doing their sports and they can't come to an on-campus university, and they cannot maybe do their examinations when the others do it because they have maybe just anything else which makes it not possible. So there can be individual accommodations, there can be alternative assessment modes and case-based support in coordination with the central units. Then there's something that a bit pays into personalization. This is the modular micro-credential and personalized competency pathways. We offer some micro-credentials, as many universities do, for people that are interested in studying but who do not have the time or actual need to complete an entire master or bachelor degree program. So we give certificates that are in a way micro-credentials that enables them to realize specific educational goals below a degree level and to obtain a university-recognized qualification. And those certificate programs consist of thematically related modules from the undergraduate degree programs and have a scope of 60 to 75 ECTS credit points as part of a bachelor's degree or 30 credit points as part of a master's degree. Another thing that we do on an institutional level is the open access study program. Open access studies at FernUniversität are much like guest audition studies on campus universities, on-campus universities, and they are not age dependent. They are open to all interested parties. And open access students are free to choose courses and modules from the courses offered by FernUniversität. So some of them can be completed even by taking exams or term papers, but some are just like I'm reading a book and I get the knowledge of what is written down, and I do not have any examination at the end. There are no admission requirements. There's no need to provide a proof of compliance with administration requirements, because open access students are not enrolled in a degree program in such way, and therefore do not obtain a degree by university. And there is so in that sense, no entrance qualification needed. And now on the more technical side, there are two projects that deal with adaptive learning environments, and I will introduce them very shortly. The project EADTU offers early support for heterogeneous learners in organizing their study routines and recognizing critical phases. This is a project also done by the Katapa Center, which I just mentioned at the beginning. They have a privacy-preserving data processing, in that case, pseudonymization, faculty-specific dashboards, and pilot courses that provide tailored recommendation for the students. But as George always says, there's the need to have humans to help the students interpret those data and to translate the data into, for example, workloads or counseling dependent on the life situation. And there is a lot of use of analytics dashboards with progress indicators and early warning signals. But this is a project that was only been conducted for a pilot group, so that it was not for all the students at FernUniversität. It was just a research project with some students that were piloting this. Another one was the project Selbst. It's also about adaptive learning environments. The focus was to strengthen self-regulated learning And they did it in the way that machine learning models were trained on study behavior patterns and then were integrated into the Moodle. This is our learning management system, based learning paths and supported by evidence-based didactical designs. That was also a project which is not at the whole student body of FernUniversität. It was in special study programs, and the systems recommended learning materials or next steps or whatever based on learning behavior. And it was a project where they had a lot of ethical frameworks as well. So they were really close to data protection and ethical guidelines. And now the big project that we have just launched is what I'm talking about in more detail. It's called LEAD, FUAH. This is FernUniversität in Hagen, and LEAD means Learning Empowerment Through Analytics and Data. This project is a university-wide change management project for learning analytics, or for the integration of learning analytics, because we think it's not something that can be just conducted in one module or in one study program, because it changes our whole understanding of blended learning and might change the university as a whole. So we consider it as a change management project. The aim is to strengthen organizational, technological and didactic conditions for personalized learning, and it focuses on the diverse and large bachelor student populations as the first step, but the aim is to really enroll this for everybody at FernUniversität. We have just started in October, so it's a pretty young project, and it was funded with around 7 million euros from the Foundation for Innovation in Higher Education Teaching, which is Stiftung Innovation in der Hochschullehre in Germany. And what is the background of that project? When we applied for that project, we have seen that learning analytics is only used sporadically at university, like we ourselves did in temporary projects, in isolated solutions. And there are, despite numerous models and concepts for implementation at universities, but there were still no empirical evidence of the effectiveness of those models. And to the date when we applied, that was October last year, there has been no comprehensive implementation of learning analytics at any university in Germany. So the main objective of the project is to close that gap and apply the principles for implementing learning analytics across all faculties at FernUniversität in Hagen. And so we want to develop the FernUniversität into a model university, a space for innovation for the application of learning analytics in the German educational sector. And of course, there are challenges that we address. We looked at the model of dimensions of implementation and impact by night. And as you can see, there are things that have to match each other. For example, the learning design has to match the system design. The social cultural infrastructure has to meet the technical infrastructure. And the pedagogical context, the learning needs, the learning tasks somehow have to fit with the user interface and the infrastructure. So this is a multi-level project with many dimensions, and we also look at ethics. We look at law, including data protection, and we look at further resources. And we have 3 core personalization scenarios that we want to fulfill with that project. First of all, we want to develop applications for predicting dropout rates based on student behavior in the initial phase of study, because I have just told you it's very crucial in the first semesters to keep on studying. Our highest dropout is in the first and second semester. So we believe that if we have recommendation systems that work in the first 2 semesters, we can decrease the dropout rates, for example, with semi-automated recommendations for module selection or information on support services. Then the second goal is to develop applications for promoting personalized learning in conjunction with AI systems in the development of study content in the introductory modules. For example, in the big bachelor degree programs and in the big modules where there are many thousands of people, we want to build a dashboard for personalized feedback for individual or joint learning activities with AI learning agents and adaptive task design. In every case, led by human constellation as well. And a third thing is applications to support self-regulated learning in the initial phase of study with analyzed dashboards where students can reflect on their own study behavior and maybe successful students from previous years and compare themselves with themselves or with others as well. And the project goals, as I said, is implementing learning analytics across all faculties at FernUniversität. Then we want to build a 360 degrees showroom to document the development and the implementation of the teaching architecture in the study programs. And we also look at the different subject cultures. For example, we have 5 faculties and they are for example, in studies of law, they might use different learning analytic tools than in mathematics or psychology. And we want to look at these subject cultures as well as a part of change management in that project. And therefore, we want to develop an open access handbook at the end for documentation where we describe the development and change management. And then we want to develop a learning analytics toolkit, some kind of playbook in our heads at the moment, where we want to offer methods for curricular integration, acceptance promotion, evaluation. This should be one of the goals that we fulfill at the end of the project. It's running for 4 years, but maybe it's even it can be stretched to 6 years, depending on the evaluation in between. So we want to promote the FernUniversität as a partner university for piloting learning analytics, and this project will enable the FernUniversität to perform its role more effectively than before. And there are some aspects why FernUniversität is particularly suitable. First of all, we have our blended learning model and we have a lot of digital data. Our students do mostly not come to our campuses. And so every interaction is in a way stored in any system. So everything they interact with in the learning management system is recorded in Moodle or is documented in Moodle. Everything about inscription and for example, academic background is stored in the inscription system. So there are a lot of data that we can use with 80,000 students. So we have really high student numbers that are necessary for the development of those learning analytic applications. We have a good academic environment. As I said, the Catalpa research cluster, the ZDI, and even relevant projects or external partners make a really good academic environment. We also have the urge to do something because we have one of the worst teacher-student relationships in Germany. We have about 100 professors, but 80,000 students. So you see the relationship is really bad. And we cannot cope it for a long time in the way it is, so that we have the urgency to do something, and we hope that learning analytics will help us out in a way. We are in a way ready because we had a pre-project. We had the projects I told you about. We had different talks with a data trustee. We have a project called Data Warehouse where all the academic data is stored. So we are ready to implement that. And we want to transfer to the educational landscape. We have, as I said, 5 faculties with different subject cultures. We have the same legal basis. We have a widespread learning management system and so on. And this is done by using the Sheila framework. That means, first of all, stakeholders are identified, for example, teachers, students, or whatever. Then some learning analytics relevant goals are identified. Then there are already piloted learning analytics tools that we select in the project and then try to develop a participation strategy and then do an analysis of internal capacities and needs and evaluation and reporting. And in the end, it should look like this as a governance model. So the governance structure includes the rectorate, the deans, the student representatives, and there's interdisciplinary collaboration between Catalpa, ZLI, ZDI, and central administration. And we have some legal foundation through a new learning analytics regulation that our academic CNET has agreed on last year, and the Data Trust Office. And there's a strong scientific basis via the Learning Analytics Research Program. And our aim is to have some sub-projects, including organization, technology, legal affairs, acceptance, science, and a lot of stakeholders, which also include, for example, the student counseling or the organization development. And it should work out like this. We start with a faculty that is the least ready for learning analytics and apply some of the already piloted learning analytic tools. And whenever we have implied that, do evaluation and then go to the second and third and then fourth and fifth faculty in which we can apply the learning analytic tools that can be taken part in the big modules. And here is an interim evaluation. After that, it's planned to work out in all the study programs at FernUniversität. And our future directions for personalizations, we want to expand the learning analytics across the additional programs. We want to strengthen the AI-supported adaptive learning environments. We want to be an European or strengthen the European collaboration for shared frameworks and evidence-based personalization. And there is a continued alignment of quality assurance, ethics, and student participation. Thank you so much for your interest, and I'm happy to answer questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Annabell, for this very interesting presentation. I maybe just take up a couple of questions from the chat first, because we're running low on time, but there were some very practical things like, when will all these nice project goals be available? Because there's a lot of interest in the toolkit, for example, in the 360-degree showroom.
Yeah, they should be available within the next 4 years, because the project is running for 4 years, and maybe and we will all the time do publications about the project statuses. So we have I can show you the link in the chat. We have a website on the project where we will publish interim results as well.
Fantastic. Then there were some more technology-oriented questions that I might pick up first. So Jo Marie Jokte is asking, how do we prevent that AI-driven personalized learning systems reinforce bias or disadvantage certain learner groups? Are you kind of building in preventative measures for that?
Yes, we are aware of that problem, and we are working together with the student council and also the counseling and the people that deal with a student in the first semesters, and we really hope to get answers to that. We have not solved the problem yet, I can say, but we are really aware of that biases that are produced, and we maybe learn from the projects that have been conducted before, where they had a lot of impact on ethics and biases. So maybe this is why the project is not only technology based, but also on a didactical basis, and the research cluster. And we hope that the research cluster can help us out with findings that we can implement right away. So yeah, we are aware of that. And we are aware of that it's a problem.
Yeah, thank you. It sounds like you're taking a very holistic approach involving different parts of the university. Another question in the chat was related to how do you manage student data and what kind of infrastructure do you have in place for that?
Oh, yes, we have a data warehouse which stores all the academic data, like academic background, age, country, school, whatever. And then we have research data that we can use from, for example, Moodle discussions. So if researchers want to say, okay, I want to analyze a special conversation that has been taken part in Moodle, we have a data trustee where we can like pseudonymize or anonymize those data that it's not possible to find out what students it actually was and give it back. But yes, there is a data warehouse.
Yeah, thank you. Then maybe a last question. What methodological basis do you use to design the learning pathways that you're
The
planning
Sheila
to
framework, I just mentioned
Yeah.
it. I can provide the link in the chat as well.
Sure. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Annabelle. I see that we're running over time. I don't know, Stefan, if people are available because I see there are some questions coming up. If you can go
Yeah,
on
I think
for
it
a
fully
few
depends on
minutes longer.
Annabelle if she has any other appointments, if she needs to leave to, or I think we can go on for a few more minutes, but only if Annabelle has time to
The
answer.
problem is I have a visitor group from Namibia waiting for me, but 5 minutes will be fine.
Yes.
Let's do one more, Kamakshi, and
One
then we
more.
close. Yeah.
And maybe this is a question for both Annabelle and George. So looking ahead in the coming 4 years, very practically, Annabelle, in your institution, but I think George also across the EADTU membership, what kind of trends do you see shaping the future of personalized learning? What are the things that we might see coming up in the next couple of years? George? Yeah, go ahead.
Shall I go? What the EADTU members and European MOOC Consortium members concern is mostly how can we use micro-credentials, but also short learning programs to contribute to the personalization of education and especially personalized pathways. We make that difference between personalized pathways and personalized education because that pathways is more on content. So how can these short learning programs, micro-credentials contribute to that? And at the institutional, at the institutional level of our members, the main question is change management. So we want to have dedicated leadership sessions also with our rectors and management level on change management in the universities and how to learn also from each other in this respect. And we want to take it up also on the topic of the introduction of AI.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I think that maybe in the future, there are not like cohorts of students that start at one time and then finish at the same time, but there are more individual pathways, as George already said, where we can focus on accompanying those students. And I think we have to strengthen our role as a distance teaching university. Because all the on-campus universities, of course, do online teaching as well, since Corona at least. So there have to be some key points that make us important for students that cannot go to on-campus universities.
Thank you so much. This was a very nice session, I think. I learned so much. So Stefan, maybe you could put up the slide still from the next seminar, next webinar, which will take place tomorrow, where we will go further into this topic of personalization of education, but focus more on the MOOC platforms, also look at student engagement practices, and also look at the issue of ethics and around personalization. So I would very much like to thank our two speakers today, George Ubachs and Annabell Bils. And thank you to all the participants today as well. And so I look forward to seeing you tomorrow then. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.